So perhaps I can talk about the product discovery. What are the limitations or challenges to adopt that using ChatGPT for the product discovery? So it still requires some additional layers of the technology. Just you cannot plug in ChatGPT on your website. It doesn't work for your product catalog. So it requires such as like product tagging, the information of your product catalog. And also you need an additional layer to understand ChatGPT, the recommendation. I mean, as a human being, we understand what they're suggesting, but making machine to understand and make the machine to find the matching product, that's another work. So the good news is that there's a number of companies, including, yes, please, a little bit promo time, but we've built the AI that actually understand the natural language. So whatever the great recommendation ChatGPT makes, or the human input, the conversation, we have a machine to understand, parsing the information, and begin the matching that suggestion to the actual product that your retailer, the brand has there from the product catalog. So those things still additional work, and it takes a time. I guess I was to say there's a great technology, and the greater news, don't try to build everything from the scratch. Just use these tools and solutions out there, play around. I think one of the most important thing to be successful is that you try and play around and you internalize it. And it's not easy to do. A lot of the, from my experience, either if you're a big company, you want to build everything has a technology advantage, but by the time you build it, there's something else, something new. And then sometimes you're afraid of like, what if that messes up my website? But I think that today technology is good enough. There's a good way to plug in a safe way. And you don't want to miss the chance to understand how your shoppers will respond and react to this latest great technology we have. I think it's better to like fail fast, learn earlier, and optimize the experience. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I realized that the type of technology that you in service you can offer is around that automation and data attribution at the end of the day to make the quality of the data much more faster, agile, findable, all of the wonderful things that as a merchant and site consumer experience expert, you want for the end result. But at the end of the day, the teams that I've seen who are disciplined to win, there's usually a mindset of how much allocation of my roadmap do I develop, reward, allocate for staying that 10 to 15 minutes ahead. We're not talking hours ahead, but how do I reward an organization culturally to bring innovation and remove the stigma of failure when you are being bold and courageous to try something. And so as a product leader, that's, those organizations that develop and build in that discipline, they tool for winning, in the sense of how can we implement this intellectual shortcut and empower you to go do these other things and find applications for it. So I think it does need to come from within a culture. It needs to be rewarded in its discipline and muscle memory training of how to apply it, and rewarded. And a portion of it can't be just tied to a hackathon week, although no disrespect to people who even do that, because that's great, but it needs to be allocated so there is a space to chase and you can show differentiation, and also bring on talent that is hardwired for that as well.
So I have 2 more questions to go. So if you're still with me, next question, I think we talked about this, but are you concerned at all about the accuracy of a ChatGPT responses? Should retailers have a system in place to double check accuracy, or should we not be concerned? Agnes, how about we start?
Yeah, today, yes, I'm a little bit concerned about accuracy. And I mean, accuracy, it depends on the definition of accuracy. My concern is more about, is it true or not? I don't know if it's exactly the same meaning of accuracy, but why I'm saying that? Because I had a very strange experience with one of my students, because sometimes I need to teach. And it was last week or 2 weeks ago. I got a homework from one of my students, and we discussed a little bit together, and I asked the student, what is that? What does it mean? I don't really understand the answer of the question I asked before. And the students say, oh, madam, you know, it's not me, it's ChatGPT. And I say, what? Okay, what? Can you repeat? And I was, I say, yes, madam, it's not me, it's ChatGPT. I say, okay, guys, I understand. You're right. It's really good manner to start a new tools. You need to improve. It's good. But keep in mind, you need to understand what the tool is talking to you, is saying to you. It's not, it's not acceptable to say, it's not my fault, it's ChatGPT fault. It's crazy. So here, it's why we need to be careful. And at the beginning, we say we need to learn how to use ChatGPT, and we need to avoid intellectual shortcuts. I'm afraid by this. And we need to check, and especially now, we don't know later how it will be, but now we need to double check everything, because we are not sure if the machine today is not really, I don't know, but I think the machine is not really able to make the difference between what is true, what is not true, what is accurate, what is not. So it's why we need to cross information. And the tool GPT is a tool to help us to enhance or to empower our way of thinking. But on top of that, we need to double check everything. It's just the tools today. Tomorrow, we don't know yet. But here, back to the accuracy will be okay when the tools will be okay. But I think today we need to be careful, and we need to use it. I don't want to go back to the beginning of the discussion. We need to continue to use it, but we need to, just simply double check what GPT is proposing.
How about you, Christina?
Yeah, I think going back to an example of using ChatGPT to write, say, intros of who we are, if we were to feed it information about our careers, and then create an intro about who we are, it could give a lot of false positives. And the structure of it sounds so familiar and sounds so accurate that a lot of people would go, oh, cool, I didn't know you were, I don't know, fill in the blank about something that is woefully inaccurate. It might think that I actually am a merchant and I'm not, right? So I think, like with anything that can be useful and powerful, there is this combination of how do you create a safe space to go play and try it out, but where do you want to put the guardrails as far as then its applicability? So Agnes, the reason why I was laughing is because it sounds like you got a nouveau version of the dog ate my homework. That's why I did not turn it in. ChatGPT wrote it. But it does beg the question, I guess, the flip side of that is, how much better is that starting point, or the information you bring to that blank canvas?
Yeah.
How is that going to improve the process? That's what I'm curious about. I was listening to Adam Grant on a podcast with professors, and how ChatGPT is kind of changing the culture of how homework and papers and things like that are generated. And they described it as, it's a pretty good 1.0 thesaurus for a starting point of an assignment. But then I think, how well, once you learn these systems and you use the utility or the power of the tool, what does that empower me to go figure out and go do and build or write? So I think that there's a lot of untapped power, but this question of disinformation and how accurate something is, that exists today. So I think it's a matter of figuring out again, just being super human about it and saying, what is it? Does this seem reliable? Does this seem reasonable? Is this believable? And as I would read any sort of source of news, I do ask myself, well, where is this coming from? And, is this something that I want to put stock and double down on? So I think all of that as responsibility is required as an industry. And it's only going to get better, I think. And that's why it's open AI. It's not, people want to leverage the value of how we can come together and figure out how to make something a 2.0 version or even better. I mean, wasn't too long ago that ChatGPT was at 3.5, and now, they're even talking about the version 5 of it. So
Yeah.
So for me, we just built a ChatGPT Fashion stylist. So in terms of the product discovery and the accuracy of the styling, I think that is generally spot on. Like if you ask like outfit for Coachella, or I have a meeting at the conference, what should I wear? So it's generally speaking accurate. And that can be a problem because the product discovery, we're still looking for that spark of a creativity. It's not necessarily like really generic answer. I think ChatGPT lacks of the creativity, could be. As a machine, they don't want to be too extreme and too creative. So the way I look at it, yes, the accuracy is accurate, but generally accurate. And is that not always necessary good thing? But also there's a way, like for GPT, they have a system prompt. So in a system level, you can actually create a role. This is like Anna Wintour as a fashion stylist. And that gives some more edge of the style of the Anna Wintour would wear, or Jackie O'Kennedy. Like you can actually set a role and have that as a taste maker in a way. So there is way we need to make it more interesting to be more accurate and relevant for shoppers. So yeah, I'm still, but overall, I am leaning toward it's more accurate. They're more super knowledgeable. So again, I am obsessed.
I think the applicability can go on and on. When I think about fashion, the closest analog I find is food. And if the New York Times cooking or recipe section has a ChatGPT where I can just submit a photo of what I have in my refrigerator, submit it, and tell me a seasonal thing that I can make that my 9-year-old child will eat as well. I mean, chef's kiss to that. Literally, I would do it in a heartbeat. So I think some of the applicability, it depends on how joyful it is, or how, at the end of the day, that's, to have a bad meal, you're going to have 2 more theoretically.
My last question for today, how do you see the role of ChatGPT evolving the fashion industry over the next few years or 6 months? Can we start with the Agnes?
Okay. 6 months, I think nothing will happen. We will continue to try and to check everything, to improve, and to try ChatGPT, but other AI tools, because there is a lot. So we can continue to do that. But maybe next year, after the trial time, maybe we can expect ChatGPT and generative AI to be something like a mega assistant, a big assistant of a fashion brands. And why I'm saying that, it's probably we can expect ChatGPT or GPT to make the bridge in between the different teams in the fashion brands. And at the beginning, when I say, okay, we are able to collect a lot of data, but we don't know how to understand the data. And it's because also one reason is because people are not they don't have a lot of communication in between each team. I would say the sales team doesn't talk enough with the marketing and the design team and the manufacturer and so on. So it's a lack of communication. And maybe with ChatGPT, we can figure out to get a new tools able to make the connection in between each actors inside the fashion brand and the ecosystem of the brand. So it's why, you know, I bet a lot on this type of tools to make sure we are able to understand each other, because of course we don't have the same language. I mean, we don't talk the same way with accounting or marketing or sales or manager or design team under the same brand's name. So maybe we can give this part to ChatGPT to make the connection smoother, and it will be probably a way to refresh, once again, to refresh the fashion industry and to go in the right direction in a more efficient way.
So Agnes, if you would give advice to your colleagues or friends in the fashion industry, what would that be regarding to ChatGPT?
Use it. Don't hesitate. Go. And don't say no, and don't be afraid, because also, you know, people are really scared. And right now, because they say, oh, you know, maybe I won't have job anymore. You know, this is everybody is talking about that right now, and we don't know what will happen. Maybe I will lose my job. Okay, but I will find another one. So we need to keep energy to continue this way. And this way we can discover another opportunity to develop. And it's why it's interesting and to go to follow to be with, not against. We need to go in the direction. So this is the advice I can give. Trust in yourself, improve your knowledge, and ask GPT to help you. Don't be, I mean, it's not GPT to take your decision for you, but you can ask help to GPT, not opposite way. And again, still with my students, sometimes I'm becoming crazy with the students. Another one said, okay, with GPT, I feel as a Superman. Again, you know, and I say, okay, don't you feel too overconfident, ChatGPT? You are giving the key to ChatGPT, your house key to ChatGPT. And it means GPT will drive you. But who is the chief? Is it you or GPT? Make your choice. And here, you know, the advice I can provide, especially to the young generation, is trust yourself, work hard, and work with GPT. And okay, just try and be confident.
I will have to echo that, like, you know, to drive these like new technology, you have to use it. Without it, you don't know how to drive it. So use it, definitely.
Use it.
So Christina, what would be the role of the ChatGPT in the fashion, and what would be your advice, your friends and colleagues?
Goodness, you know, so much of what Agnes already shared, I just couldn't help but head nod, and was even making a few notes just because it is so true. You know, here's the hard thing about hard things: starting.
Yeah.
And that's all I could really say about it, just in the sense of there is a little bit of the reasons not to try something, but the reality is, you know, once you suspect, you know, you just take that courageous first step and start, I think it'll just make you much more informed, and information is power, and how it informs your judgment about things. I do think if these sets of tools, depending on who you are in the manufacturing ecosystem, if it could help break down those barriers of communicating, bring teams together to move a little bit more quickly, I think it's more in the application of how it gets deployed and used, and hopefully bringing teams together and into better alignment. You know, a powerful outcome could be just helping to reduce what gets produced that doesn't end up in a landfill, and you know, think about a green, sustainable world just in reducing production of something, or producing the right things that get sold, as opposed to sold, manufactured, not sold, you know, and again, making its way into a landfill, or, you know, the amount of textile waste that happens. I can think of a very positive green outcome there in the fashion world. But I think this comes down to human condition and nature. And I just go back to the first place to start is to start. And it might be in a very small way. But if you can make that courageous first start and surround yourself with people who are unafraid to share what they know and support you in that courageous first step, the magic happens.
Yep.
So I agree. I think that it might take a time in terms of the adoption, but from the technology standpoint, so Kristen, you mentioned they're showing the image of the food item, the recipe. It's already here, actually. The next ChatGPT version, it's a scary. They recognize the image and does make the recommendation or translation or make a summary of it. So it's already here. So I think it's all matter of we have to be creative how to utilize all this great technology. So with that, I want to thank you, our panelists today, for insightful conversation. I know we can talk about this all day, but we're gonna save that for the maybe 3-4 months later. Let's see how things have been changed. So thank you and
Thank you.
bye now.